start? Do you remember? Was there a green fleet? Were you thrown into the deep end? Was it? How did it go?
Well, the first thing I don't really. It's quite a long time ago, but the first thing that I remember was saying like a wooden sabo.
Yep.
So I got that when I was like, I don't know, we got it from a friend actually, and I just remember hating it, to be honest. I remember
Yep.
getting smashed in the head by the wooden boom, which was pretty painful. I
And
remember.
like, are they as sore as metal booms or wooden booms? As you
Um, Probably say they're about the same, but
same
yeah,
density,
it's still pretty painful.
hitting a hollow object, so it's not as bad. So that's all right.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't make much difference.
did you do the traditional? Because your dad, Jan, is a sailor himself. So did you kind of skip the sailing play or the tackers? Did you go into
Um,
Green Fleet? Because you started off at Royal Melbourne, right?
yeah, I actually did Greenfleet and into me, and I don't know what the other ones are after that. I mean, tackers, sorry.
Yeah.
Not, yeah. And then, so I did that, and that was like, I just did it with my friends, and it was actually really fun. And so I think that kind of like made sailing fun instead of scary, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really sail for a while, and then I got back into like sailing opties at Royal Melbourne. And then, yeah, I just went into Greenfleet from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember seeing you. I briefly worked with you for a little while. Because
Yeah.
you're always the small kid, and the rest of the
Yeah.
guys were always a bit older. So remember, like there was it was funny for me to leave Australia for a while, where you went from being the really young guy to being the biggest presence around the boat park. It was pretty cool. Um, Sam, I might let you take over here if that's all right, because you kind of took over Linus's coaching duties. But yeah, so I guess before I pass over, did you have any standout moments in the Oppie?
Um, well, for me, I was meant to go straight into intermediate, but I was like super scared. So I just went straight into Greenfleet. And I think that kind of created like a base, which was just really fun. And so that kind of just helped me, I don't know, because a lot of kids like don't are like super scared. And I was like really scared at the start, but I think the more you can just like stay in Greenfleet, it's kind of like if you just like stay with your friends, it just becomes like really fun instead of like quite scary. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think Greenfleet is just really helpful.
well, that's a super. I think that's a great message to have, because obviously we're going to be talking about how competitive you are, but that the
Yeah.
base level was fun, hanging out with mates.
Yeah.
That's well, to be honest, I mean, that's the answer I want you to give, and you gave it. It's great.
Yeah.
Um, Maybe Sam, I might let you ask a few questions about his more competitive side, and I'll pass the book over to you, mate.
Sure. Well, thanks for having me again, Dave. It's cool to see what everyone's been up to, and yeah, thank you. Um, all right, Linus, what are we going to talk about? I guess what should we start with? I guess maybe what was a typical week for us in your opti? Like how did you go about your training, and how did that work?
Well, I remember I wasn't really doing any training until you came around, I guess. And so then after that, that was like a big tipping moment for me. And then I think, I can't really remember, I was quite a lot. I think it was like 4 or 5 times a week. So like 3 on weekdays and 2 and like on Saturday and Sunday. So I think that just, and there was heaps of boats, which was also like super helpful. So just keep like everyone motivated, and it was just really fun. Yeah, it was just some regattas, some weekends, and yeah, it was just good.
So you talk about, I guess, I think you give me too much credit in this, but you talk about your, I guess, the time before we started working together. What was that like? Were you enjoying your sailing? How is that all going?
Yeah, I wasn't really enjoying it that much. And because I remember, I think it was at New South Wales Youths where I remember all the Victorians just got smashed. And then I think it was you and Adrian who's like, let's not have this happen again. And then we went back to Victoria and started training. And then by that nationals, I think my best result was I think a 35th or something at nationals in Sydney. And then after we started training, only for like 2 months, I think it was, or something before nationals, I came up like, I think it was 8th or something, or 10th. So that was like a massive step where I never thought that I'd actually be able to even do well at nationals. So that was actually pretty cool to like get the results from like putting all the hard work in. So that was rewarded for the effort, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, thinking back on that time, I could tell, and Dave just alluded to it as well. Like you are one of the most competitive people I think I've met, and I could tell that yourself and Lockie Brogan, who was sort of next to you at the time, and quite a few of the other sailors, like you all wanted to win races at a national level, but I think you thought that it was too far away, and it was quite cool to see that just like a little bit of a change in how you approached your sailing made such a big difference. But it wasn't like a major shift by any means. But it was quite cool. I think a lot of it was down to like that self belief. I think it was a South Melbourne was probably the first sort of benchmark regatta, and you guys all of a sudden were like, oh, okay, this is quite fun. Yeah,
Sorry to interrupt there, guys. Sam, as the coach, did you notice a difference in the training, like the effort levels maybe, or the focus from pre-New South Wales to, okay, let's get our act together? Did you notice it yourself? And Linus, for you, maybe afterwards, like, was it just a mindset change, or was it more hours? What was it that made that happen?
I think it's a cultural thing. And what I mean by that is when I arrived in Melbourne, I spent the summer sort of doing a lot of different coaching, and then that winter I kind of started to work with Linus in what was called the VST, I think at the time, the top sort of little group of opties, and it was really hard. I think we weren't quite on the same page. It was quite a Linus will talk about, I had to bring in this, or I tried to bring in this sort of like point system to try and get the kids to listen to what I was saying more and do the drills the way that I was trying to get them to do on the water. And I think Linus, like after 5 points, you're supposed to get like a bit of a warning, and then 10, you're supposed to get a letter home to your parents. It's like and I think Linus racked up over 10 in the first session. So it was quite an interesting time, and it was more, I think, about them. It was just about trust. Like we needed to trust each other and start to form our partnership, like between Linus and myself, but also Linus and his teammates. And that was the big shift. Was like, okay, we're gonna try this. We're gonna try sailing for a bit more time than we normally have, and try do a little bit extra in our training in terms of the effort that we're putting in, and see where that takes us. So originally I said to Linus, like, let's do 28 days, and in this month let's try sail as much as you can based on your schedule, and then see where we are. And I guess, Linus, you remember that regatta? I think it was South Sandy. We came out and I think you won every race by quite a bit, and that was really cool. So yeah, it was more about that trust. I think that we could actually like learn together and like build towards nationals as a group.
Yeah, and I think that especially when we started training, it was more, I don't know about it. It's still about having fun, but I think it was more like kind of like just going there, like our parents making us, and then just like taking a bit of a joke out of it instead of actually like trying and like taking the opportunity. And I think when we actually realized that like we've only got 2 more years in the opti, I think then we actually started to focus. And then I think that also created like I don't know, kind of like a culture where I don't know how to explain it, but like you like pushed everyone around you and they pushed you. So you all got like better as a collective, which I think was actually a really cool experience. And that also like made it fun and like super competitive, and made us all better, which was pretty good. So yeah.
I suppose just to build on that, and this is looking just from an outset and from a coach looking in, if you can accept that mindset, so this is for everyone else, and if you can understand that, yeah, you don't want to finish second or third or fourth in a race, and like say well done to the person that beat you, but just yeah, working as a team but individually, if that makes sense. I think that's kind of what we're trying to describe. You're right, Linus, it is quite hard to say, but just getting into that flow, you're all going to raise your game, it's just so good. Sam, you started sailing oppies in New Zealand, started slightly, switched tack, and the culture in New Zealand when you started oppies was a top of the world. Essentially, like New Zealand was right up there, one of the top major countries. You know, they've probably slipped behind Australia in the last little while. That's okay. That's thanks to your good coaching. Do you have any standout moments that you remember culture wise that you're talking about, or anything that just stood out?
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, I remember my coach really well from that time. A guy called Andrew Wills. Willsy, we used to call him. Well, that's his name. That's what everyone calls him. But he was very much he had a long-term focus in terms of like his coaching. So he wanted us to love the sport and wanted, and he was also all about the team environment and supporting teammates. And so I guess from the outside, yeah, like my experience was like really positive in terms of like a really good team of really good individual sailors that also just like were quite good friends and pushed each other quite hard on the water. And yeah, a lot of the times that I was coaching, I tried to think about those times. I mean, I was pretty young, so you don't remember everything, but yeah, you do remember like, you know, the swapping of boats on the water to try and try each other's gear, and just like the open. I think the big thing is like just being inclusive and like, yeah, willing to share things, and then also like making sure that you are pulling your weight in training to push each other. So yeah, like it was quite. I think that was something that I definitely tried to help encourage with the sailors in Melbourne, and I think we did that pretty well. We were always extremely inclusive. Like we never, you know, it didn't matter what sailor wanted to come down and come. Well, you know, like I think we at times we had intermediate fleet sailors coming and sailing with Linus when he was already in the AOST trying to train for the North Americans, and you know, like there was a benefit for Linus for more boats being there, and there was a benefit for them obviously to see Linus sailing, and you know, that was always something that I tried to foster, and I think we did a good job of that. There was never any secrets in the briefings or debriefings. No one was hiding anything, and I think that's definitely really important for your collective learning.
Yeah, no, completely. And how many kids would have been in your squad in New Zealand that you would have trained against? Was it like the 6-to-8 ratio as it is here?
Yeah, I mean, the first team I was talking about was one of the world squad, but back in, I think one of the really cool things that helped me with my sailing was what we did at our local little club, Napier Sailing Club. The parents really got together, and one parent in particular like really fostered that whole program, and we had I think it ended up maxing out at 3 like triple deck trailers that used to just like get on the road on a Friday and go to Auckland and do all these regattas as one big group. So we actually had like, you know, I think it maxed out at about, you know, almost 30 sailors, and you know, groups of 5, 6, 7, like all kind of split up on the water a little bit, but then really like a good team full of friends that just they made it for everyone. Like you wanted to go to events because you wanted to hang out with your friends more than anything.
Yeah, so everyone's on the same page. And Linus, I might jump back to you just because it's your day and it's all about you, Linus. Don't mind Sam trying to hog it. I'm only joking, I invite him. When you were in Oppies, did you have anything that just, like whenever you approach sailing, that really, if you had anything, say 3 things to focus on at training that would make you stand out, that made the difference? Was there anything that, yeah, again, came out at you? I'm not asking very clear questions today.
No,
But
that's fine. I think one of the biggest things which we did in training, which I don't think we'd ever done before, was like trying different things. Like even trying things that we didn't even think would work. Like I remember one session we went out and we just did like so many tacks, and we just tried like all these different techniques and like types, and we just tried to get the best one. And just remember doing so many and just being so tired at the end. But I remember that I think it was me and Finn, we like found this way to tack where we just like made like was super aggressive. And I think that we brought that to nationals, and then, oh no, we brought it to South Melbourne. And then after that event, I think everyone just started copying us, and then they all got like the same tack. So I think that's probably like my biggest thing, just try different things. So like everything, like, I don't know, just try as many things as possible in training because you can, and there's no risk.
And once you tried it, like, would you have a notebook, or was it all muscle memory that you remembered? Did you try just one thing at a time, or did you complete chaos and change everything at once? Was there a little bit of method to madness, or just I'll go for it?
I was definitely meant to have a notebook, but I don't think I ever brought it really to training. And I don't think Sam or Adrian was very happy about that. But I don't know. I think it was more just doing it as much as possible once you found something that was good, and then just doing as much as you can, just remembering it like by muscle memory.
Okay, yeah, cool. And then moving on to events, you went to pretty cool venues. You got to go to the Europeans and the North Americans.
Yeah, so that was a pretty awesome experience. So I went to Canada in Toronto, and for the North Americans, and that was like my first international event, or like first continental like big event, which was pretty awesome. As that was just an amazing experience, I think, to go up against all like the best in the world.
Yeah.
And then I went to the Europeans in the Netherlands, which was also, that was like pretty awesome as well. And
whereabouts in the Netherlands was it?
I don't really know how to pronounce it. I think it was called Scheveningen.
Oh yeah.
And that was actually really awesome, because that was when the Volvo Ocean Race boats, that was like their last point. Yeah. And so then there was like all these photos of us sailing with like the Volvo Ocean Race boats, and we got to go on them as well, which was awesome.
How good.
Yeah.
And do you, speaking about events, did you have any standout events that you just, the happiest moment, say in Oppies? We'll call it Oppie life. I mean, it has to be one with Sam. You can't do it when he wasn't your coach. He's right there.
Yeah. I think my last nationals, it was really cool, but it was also, I don't know, it was not depressing, but it was underwhelming, I think. But it was also like a really amazing event, because it was like putting all the years I've had into Opties into like one final regatta. And it was just 2 points, which stopped me from going to the Worlds, but it is what it is.
It's not like as if it keeps you up at night. It's fine.
It did back then, but not anymore.
I know the feeling, mate. Sorry, Sam, you take over about this one, mate.
Oh no, I think he just admitted to it. I was wondering if he was going to mention this, but yeah, unfortunately, poor Linus was so nervous that he was waking up at 3 and 4 in the morning during that, having to get up, and just wasn't really sleeping, which was, yeah, I felt as a coach, it was an extremely hard event for both of us, because we were, like we went to the AOST camp a few weeks, well, probably about a month later, and won most of the races, and like was really sailing at an extremely high level, but sometimes regattas just don't come together. So unfortunately, you're going to remember those regattas almost as well as you remember the win.
Yeah,
it's good learning.
Yeah. And my second, probably like the coolest event was Europeans, because that was like my final Opti event. And then it was actually pretty awesome, because I was coming second after like 3 days, and then because it was super windy, and then but then it went light and I kind of got smashed, but it was still like pretty awesome to be like leading, or not leading, but like doing really well, and like everyone in the boat park coming up to you and like asking you all these questions, which is pretty awesome.
And,
yeah, I haven't had that experience since.
And did you just make up stuff to throw them the other way, or were you
Yeah, just put your sprit on the port side, makes you faster.
Real fast. Don't forget the skyhooks as well. And did you notice a difference, say, between a national start to an international race, and was there any approach difference?
I think at nationals, for my last nationals was actually a super like competitive event. So like the top, like probably I'd say top 40 boats were like actually really good. So the start was actually like pretty strong in nationals, and that was like my biggest weakness. So that was not good for me. And then I think at international events, it's like another, especially as you go into Gold Fleet, it's like another level. Like it's like super hard to get a good start. And if you do, you're pretty much guaranteed a top 10 position because everyone else just gets buried. But yeah, it wasn't a massive difference, but it's definitely a lot harder. Well, there's contradictions, but yeah.
No, I know exactly what you mean. It's a tricky one to coach because it isn't a traditional start where you say you start the same place, so you do whatever it is. That's all right. Say hi to Jan.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all right. And did you last week when we were interviewing Riley and Aidan, we asked if they have any like pre-event traditions or habits that they do. Do you have anything that you do sometimes?
I've got this. It's pretty embarrassing, but before I like go to an event or do anything really, I like say good luck to my dog. And it sounds pretty stupid, but
what's your dog called?
Ziggy. But
great name. Great restaurant in Balaclava as well.
Oh yeah, Ziggy's Burgers. Yeah, and so that's, I don't know, it's pretty weird, but I just have to do it.
That's all right. Sammy boy, did you have any habits that you did as well going to events? Any dogs you petted called Ziggy?
Oh, very much along the same lines. I had this weird thing where I had to, if my dad was taking me to regattas, he always had to be the one that took my trailer, my dolly. Like I would wait. He'd be very chilled. He's a pretty relaxed Aussie dad, and he'd be off having coffees and chats with people, and I'd get really annoyed because I'd be ready to launch, and I'd have to run through the boat park trying to find him, and I'd end up being late because I just had to have him be the one that took my trailer. Otherwise, it would just ruin my head on the way to the start line. It was just a weird thing I had in my head. And then the other thing, I guess, that my sister and I used to do is, and it was more her than me, but it also like kind of became part of my routine, was she used to find me when she was about 10 in the start line and have to say good luck between every race before the next start. And that was pretty funny. It's something I remember quite vividly. It's this tiny little blonde girl like reaching through all these boats trying to find me, Sam, just to come up and say good luck. So it was pretty cool.
That's all right. And how's she keeping? Is she still able to get in the water over in New Zealand at all?
Unfortunately, she missed the Olympic selection, but she's about to get back into it. Got a few opportunities, and she's actually training for an Ironman, which is pretty intense. So we live together at the moment, which is pretty cool. So they're doing a lot of fitness at the moment, which it's pretty interesting.
That's awesome. And Lydia's keeping well as well.
Yeah, Lydia's a head coach down at a yacht club just down the road. Pretty strong little opti club actually. So hopefully maybe some of the Victorian sailors will meet some of the sailors that she's coaching at some point, which would be pretty neat.
Fingers crossed.
David, I've got a little suggestion. Let's we can ask her if everyone's got some questions. But before I will share some photos. Please. So that we can. I cannot. Host disabled. Can you allow me to share?
So where do I need to go?
Host disabled. Smooth screen sharing.
Sharing. No. Sorry, Xavier. What do I need to do to allow you to screen share?
You probably need to go to share. This should be a.
I think you have to make him a host.
Yeah, if you go to.
A bit more. Make host. All right, you should have it now, Xavier. Thank you, Linus.
Cool. Yeah.
Today we're in good hands.
So I will share some photos. So just and maybe Linus can comment. You know, I will flick through the photos. Can you see the photos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. So you can see this is what Linus is doing now. And hold on, I'm gonna try to go from one photo to another. Sorry, let me see if. Yeah. So this is the boat that Linus is sailing on, and he started after Optis. You can see it's a little bit more complicated than an Opti. There's more sails. One good thing, it's much faster, and so you realize when you transition from Optis to another class, very quickly it's you find it fun because it's much faster. You see here it's got the spinnaker. And obviously the boat should be a little bit more flatter, Linus, on that one. But that's okay. We'll say that there was a big gust that nobody saw. So this is, and yeah, Linus, if you want to make some comments.
I don't really know what to talk about. But yeah, it's just the 420. Yeah, just yeah.
One thing, Linus, you had Adrian as a coach helping you through.
Oh, I couldn't really hear that, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I think I'm lagging, but can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
I was just saying, one thing I think was quite cool that how did you guys approach your transition? I know Adrian
Yes.
had a lot to do with that. He has a pretty cool method in terms of simplifying things. Like, what did you do in your first year outside of Opti? Like, what were you really focusing on?
Well, when we transitioned to 420s, I think for the first half of that year, I was still training for Europeans as well in the Opti. So I was sailing in the Opti as well as the 420. So that was pretty difficult to like balance time. But I think, yeah, we just really focused on like bringing it back to like really just like only tacking and upwind speed and like jibing and stuff like that. So just getting all like the basic things like super like down pat, which was super frustrating. Sailing with Adrian, like making us do like the same thing, like sailing around his boat like 100 times. But yeah, I think that actually helped us build like a solid base, but yeah, super frustrating. But that was like all we focused on.
So one step back, when did you start thinking about transitioning, and what was how did you manage that?
I didn't really focus on transitioning at all until my last national. Like I wasn't really thinking about that because I was just trying to focus on like nationals, I guess, and not focus on anything else. But then after nationals, I think Lockie and I did like one event in, I think it was Davies Bay. And so that like kind of kickstarted that, I guess. So that was actually pretty cool.
So what would you recommend to our Opti sailors when to start to think about it, or what are, what do they need to think about?
I guess it depends on like how tall you are and how much you weigh, to be honest. Like I was pretty small, so I was able to stay in Optis for a while, and choosing what class, I think you should just sail as many different classes as possible and see which one you like the most. I think that's something which I probably could have done differently. Like I only really sailed the 420, which was good in itself, but not necessarily that good for getting other experiences. So yeah, I just like sail as much as possible. I mean, sail as many different boats as possible before like committing to one. And then if you're sailing a 2-person boat, definitely try to find someone to sail with who's like just as committed as you. So yeah, I think that helps a lot.
Okay.
And
Any questions?
Linus, just with the transition, how many lessons like did you take over from the Oppie to the 420? Was it starting from scratch, or did you have a good tactical understanding from Oppies? Like, was there much of a change?
I think Opties really provide the basis of all sailing, I would say, for definitely like boat on boat and tactical and strategical sailing. And yeah, even like speed, actually, like if you can take everything from the Opti, from like even like just being super detailed with everything that you do. Like I was pretty detailed in like everything with Optis, like from sail ties to like sanding my centerboard and rudder a lot. And then if you can just take like all of that into 420s and just apply it, you like get much better, like super fast as well. So yeah, that's trying to take also.
We have a few questions coming in. So from George, did you ever try the open bic? I think it is the skipper.
I think I only tried it once, and it's pretty fun, but I just remember capsizing a lot, so it wasn't that fun for me.
That's all right. And Liam wants to know, how much did you weigh? Very personal question, Liam, but that's all right. How much did you weigh?
I can't really remember. I was pretty light for Europeans. I remember I wasn't eating much, to the detriment of my parents, but I was like 53 after Europeans. So then after that, I tried to just put on a lot of weight, or not a lot of weight. I just ate a lot more. So I went from 53 to like 58 in like a year.
I was about to say 53 isn't a terrible weight for a 420 helm.
Yeah, well, Lockie was pretty small at that time as well, so we were pretty getting smashed when it was windy, but it was still yeah.
Fair enough. I suppose the pairing is And from Lottie, she was wondering what drew you to the 420 over the 29er.
I never really sailed a 29er, so I don't really know. But there was in Victoria, there was like no 29ers, so that was like competition. Pardon, what was?
Well, I said there's still time.
Yeah, or maybe not with year 12, but I don't know. Like I would have definitely liked to sail the 29er, because I sailed it once with like Oscar, and it was actually super fun, like because it's really quick. But yeah, don't know yet. And yes, I don't really know why I chose 420. It was just mainly competition.
Any more questions?
I think there's.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So how do you stay focused under the AP? I'd probably I think you can't really focus under the AP, to be honest. Like I'd always just eat as much as I could, or like eat like food and just sit in like the shade with my friends and just talk about like stuff not to do with sailing, and just, I don't know, just talk about anything. And then just try not to get into like fights or stupid things like that. But then as soon as like the AP went, or as soon as you heard like someone talking about like you going back out, I just like go back to my boat, check everything was ready, and then just, I don't know, try to switch on. But yeah.
And we've got a good one from Aiden, who's just reading in the ears. What do you miss about Oppies? Is there anything? Is it the friendships? Is it the competitiveness? Is it, I don't know.
Well, I was lucky because a lot of people I was friends with in Opties went into 420, so that was actually really good. But I definitely miss the like competitiveness of the training and even competitions, like, and kind of the hecticness made it good, made it pretty amusing at times. But yeah, I think just training with a lot of boats is like so much better than going out on your own. So yeah, that's like the main thing that I miss. I think there was another question about snacks that I take on the boat. I have like a lunch which I put in the coach boat, and I don't know, like lots of peanut butter sandwiches and some protein bars and fruit, and that's about it.
That's a very good question about managing time with a partner.
Oh yeah, and no, I
See
don't have a
that one?
sponsor. Is it hard to manage time?
I was going to say, just before you go into that one, surely your parents are your sponsor, no?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, they definitely helped me get to where I am now. And so yeah, that's been a very helpful sponsor. And then, is it hard to manage time when you sail with a partner? I think it depends on your, like, the goals of you and your partner. And if you have the same goals, then it's not really hard to manage time. Like if you both want to do as well as you can, then you'll just train as much as you can. But I think it's pretty hard when one of you wants to do well and one of you isn't really committed to it. And then I think that's when it becomes difficult. So I think it's pretty important to like start to find someone who's like the same, who wants to have the same level of commitment as you, or else it becomes pretty tricky.
And someone that you get along well with.
Yeah, for sure. That makes it pretty helpful, pretty easy.
Pretty good that you linked up with Lockie Buddy Grogan.
Yeah,
good partnership.
Yeah, it made it easy. Especially Tim knowing all about 420s made the transition pretty easy.
That's
So yeah.
It's good. I think we've got we'll give it two more questions. So we'll say there's three, I think. So why did you go into double-handed boat instead of single-handed?
Well, the only single-handed boat which you can go into and be competitive is like the laser. I think from Opties, and I really didn't want to sail the laser because it was
too much hard work.
Yeah, I didn't really like hiking with too much pain.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and then I wasn't big enough, so that's probably like the main factor.
So playing to your strengths. And how old were you in your first boat, and who was your first coach?
How old was I? I think I was pretty young. I was like 6, and I think my dad took me out on his laser in like 25 knots, and I just remember my leg getting caught in the main sheet and thinking I was going to drown. So that wasn't good. And yeah,
that's fair enough. Well, it didn't put you off, and you've survived. I'd say. Sam, I might even ask you the same question. How old were you?
I was actually 9. Yeah, in a little tackers softer. Yeah. Oh, actually, I may have gone sailing younger than that on a lake next to our farm on a little catamaran, but I was pretty young, so I couldn't remember it too well.
And Sam, I know we've been chatting for a while, but did you go from offies? You did 420s as well, and then kind of match team racing-ish stuff. Is that your
path? I did a lot of different boats. We were quite lucky in New Zealand. We've got the P class and the Starling, which are similar to P class is like a Sabo, I guess would be the best comparison. The Starling's kind of like it's like a laser 4.7, except the sail is actually the right size for the boat. So it's a really nice boat to sail. So you can do a single-handed boat and a double-handed boat at the same time, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I think it, like Linus said, like sailing lots of different types of boats, it just makes it more fun. You learn more. So that was pretty cool.
That's pretty good. And we might just, because it's actually such a good question. Well, I've actually got 2 more to do, but Liam asks, what was the worst weather you've ever been out in?
I think it was definitely South Melbourne, that one time when it was like 40 knots.
Actually, I think I remember that one.
I think, yeah, that was probably my worst experience ever. Yeah, I just remember being like, I was sailing with Lockie actually, and we were both going upwind, just like, we had like our main sheets out the back pretending we were like Volvo Ocean Race boats. Yeah, that was pretty funny. But yeah, that was super scary.
What about you, Uzi? What was the windiest or craziest, most hectic day you've had?
Oh, yeah. A few. I guess in America we had one where we had they call them water spouts, but they look like tornadoes coming off the shore, coming towards us while I was racing, and that was quite scary. Like it all of a sudden goes, you can't really see you couldn't even see your hand. It gets to like 50 knots, and you take all the sails down. You're just sitting there, and it's raining, and you kind of wait for it to pass for 20 minutes. Then all of a sudden, you see all the carnage around you, which is, I mean, you're perfectly safe, but it's like, that was probably the gnarliest time. Just looking up when I was trimming a spinnaker and seeing a tornado next to where I was trimming, I was like, that's not right.
That's that's full on, to say the least. And I have to ask this actually, Linus, do you have a footy team? It's
the Saints.
The Saints.
All
right, so I mean that's changed things. Last week I thought you had to be a good sailor, you need to follow Geelong, so that's changed. Sorry, Geelong guys, it's not that. Sam, did you have a footy team when you were here, or were you just a rugby one?
Yeah, unfortunately, just
the Canes.
Rugby, just the Hurricanes. Yeah,
you got a good rugby match this weekend coming, North versus South Island.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was supposed to. I had tickets, but now we're the same as you. You guys probably were before lockdown. We've got no crowds anymore, which is pretty disappointing. But that's okay.
David, I've got a question. I've got a question for Linus. Linus, when at the last Youth Nationals, which was a qualifying for the Worlds, you had a protest, and that protest you went into the room to defend it, which nearly costed your ticket to go to Brazil if you had lost that protest. Meaning that knowing the rules and ability to defend yourself in a protest room in front of the jury is very important. So what advice do you give to our young sailors? Because when you're young, you can't really, rules are not super important, and knowing the rules. So what advice would you give?
We actually had 2 protests at Youth Nationals, so that made things pretty difficult. But I didn't actually do the protest. Lockie more did that, but I did a lot in opties against like Finn. But I don't know. It's kind of, if you think something's a bit dodgy, I'd probably just protest, because it's kind of like, it's not if it's a big regatta or against like your friends in a big regatta, but it's kind of a good experience because you gain a lot of knowledge, I think, out of protests, and you learn quite a lot. But there's times when you shouldn't protest, like if your friend's going for like a qualifying spot or something like that, but unless it's super bad. But yeah, I don't know. It's pretty fun. I learned like most of my rules in opties from teams racing, actually. So yeah, teams racing helps a lot with your rules if you want to focus on that.
So how did you do that? Reading books? Just actually on the water racing? Asking your coach?
Probably, yeah, asking my coach. And also if you're like, especially with yellow flag, like rules, like going up to the jury and asking them afterwards, like what you did wrong. Like, I think that's pretty important because you learn a lot from that, and you learn how to adapt like your sailing style to fit inside the rules. And yeah, I didn't really read the books, but I remember Alex Zinnerman like drilling into us all the rules at North Americans. So yeah, that kind of just stuck in my brain now. But yeah.
So it's important. The conclusion is you don't want to protest all the time. Yeah. You need to do it sometimes so that you learn.
Yeah, for sure.
We just have another great question. They're coming through the whole time. Linus, what's next? Is it exams for a little while and then see what happens? Or I know that you've got a SAC on Monday, so we're very grateful that you've given us this time.
Yeah, no, I don't really study that much on Fridays, so I'm not really too sure because I don't think I'm really sailing the 420 anymore because Lockie's obviously going to the 49er and I'm too small to go into the 49er. So I don't really know, he's sailing with his brother. And so I don't really know like where to from here. So yeah, it's like an interesting summer, I guess, ahead. But yeah, probably more just focusing on school, especially for next year because of year 12. As boring as it sounds, but
I can be your crew.
Maybe it's time for you to try crewing Linus.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. Maybe I'm probably not that tall anymore. Still not tall enough. I mean, still only like 62 kilos. Oh, I didn't get that, but
Sorry, Sam, we didn't get your smack block, but your smile gave it away though, which is cheeky.
I just think maybe I expected them to grow because I haven't seen them for so long.
no, I haven't. Not that much.
Were you enticed by anything foiling like the wasp or a moth or
Yeah,
something along those lines?
Potentially the wasp. Like, it's pretty cool. And I finally got my first foiling job on David's wasp, which was pretty awesome. Out with Blake McGlashan, who helped teach me that, which was pretty awesome. So yeah, possibly if I can find enough money for one.
That's fair enough. It's nice to have dreams.
Yeah.
And I suppose actually, and the questions that we asked last week, so I think we've gone a bit off script, but did you have any role models, heroes, or big goals even that you might have?
I didn't really have any role models, or I can't. Well, I might have, but I can't really remember.
You're supposed to say Sam here, man. Like,
yeah, well,
simple as far as a bit. He needs it.
No, I didn't really have any role models, but I think the thing which just pushed me is I just hated losing. Like even in training, I just hated to lose. So that was like the main thing which pushed me in sailing, to be honest.
Lucy or Sam, did you have any heroes growing up?
Yeah, I didn't really know any sailors, unfortunately, when I was growing up, just because I didn't grow up in a sailing town. But it sounds pretty corny, but I look up a lot to my father and my grandfather, just because they're both farmers. So their work ethic is something that I fail miserably in trying to, I guess, live up to. So yeah, that's a bit. I guess it's not quite a big name, but yeah, that's kind of how I do it. Yeah.
I mean, I would say you'd look up to them because you're my height and we're pretty short, but I can't slag you. We're the same height, so I can't say anything. I guess look, we've been on for 50 minutes now. I think it's been a very, very informative, very constructive 50 minutes. So first of all, Sam, you're in New Zealand. You've come back. You've wanted to help out. Really appreciate it. And you just jumped at when I said, would you like to help out? So it's definitely made this session much, much better. So thank you. And it's great to catch up. It's long overdue. Thank you, mate, again. Linus, as I said, you got an exam on Monday. I know that you mightn't study, but I think everyone's learned so much. The lessons I got from you were it was fun at the start. You made sure you that base. It seems as though you had a goal, which was New South Wales post that we're not putting up, not reaching it. You switched the gear and then you've turned into the sailor that you are through hard work, I would have said. So that's full credit. But again, thank you very much. I think it's been really good. So I'm sure I speak for everyone else when I say awesome job, everyone. And thank you, Xavier, for putting together those photos and helping with the interview too. So I think that's where we might do it.
Can I ask everybody to put their camera on? I'll take a picture.
Xavier wants a picture, so camera's on.
Yes. Guys. Can you put your cameras on, everybody? I think there's one or two. There's a few missing. There's one missing.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. That was cool to hear from you and Xavier and Linus as well. Good to hear that you guys are all doing well. And I know it sounds like it's been a pretty interesting time to say the least for you guys over there. So definitely been thinking about all the people in Melbourne for sure.
Yeah, thank you very much.
we hope we will be able to sail soon. So
That's right. And
Yeah, I do too. Cool for you guys to get back on the water.
that's it. Xavier, did you get that photo?
yes, I did. Yeah, thank you.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Got the photo. Well, thank you, Sam. We should have a catch up anyway. We'll get the Burundi house back together. Yeah. I think we'll leave it there, guys. But thank you again for everyone. It was very good.
Thank you for having me.
So, thank you all.
Thanks, Linus.
Thank you, Linus. Thank you,
See ya.
David and Sam.
Thanks. Thank you.
See you, Ollie.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you, Finn.
Nice background, Lottie.
Thank you.
And I saw you've got many of those.
Yeah.
Well done.
Good on you. Thanks again, Xavier.
Cheers. Bye bye.